Pupil in his class.
Mr. Harvey had admitted a lesser charge of causing the teenager grievous bodily harm after dragging him out of the classroom and hitting him over the head with a dumbbell.
Well, Sarah Teal has been following the case and is live for us outside Nottingham Crown Court. Sarah, good evening to you. A dramatic end to a very high-profile case.
It certainly is, and even the judge, Michael Stokes QC, summed it up today when he said common sense had prevailed when the jury cleared Mr. Harvey of attempting to murder his pupil and intending to cause him serious harm. Throughout this trial, Mr. Harvey has been spoken about in pretty glowing terms. He's been described as a well-respected, well-liked, passionate teacher. But things have changed for him recently, in recent months. He had been told he'd been suffering from some strain at home, looking after his wife who'd been suffering from depression. And Mr. Harvey himself had been signed off with stress. He was a good man, the court heard, but he'd been destroyed by events on July the 8th last year.
A decent man, a well-respected teacher, but Peter Harvey cracked under the pressure he'd been suffering. In court, a picture was painted of his classroom at All Saints Roman Catholic School in Mansfield on the day of the attack last July. A class out of control. Pupils playing a cruel sport, ganging up on their teacher, provoking him, knowing he couldn't cope. Then, a 14-year-old boy in the class swore at Peter Harvey. It was the last straw. Peter Harvey snapped, dragging the 14-year-old boy out of the classroom, hitting him twice over the head with a dumbbell. Witnesses heard him saying, "Die, die, die." Mr. Harvey had been off work for 5 months with depression, only returning to work 3 months before the attack. Today, a jury decided he was guilty of causing grievous bodily harm, but he hadn't intended to hurt the boy.
Through careful and painstaking inquiries, we gathered all of the evidence that was available to us, and following detailed consultation with the Crown Prosecution Service, a decision was made to take the case to court. We acknowledge the decision of the jury and hope that today's verdict will bring some degree of closure to all those involved with the incident.
Pupils, past and present, have spoken out in support of Mr. Harvey.
He was a great teacher. He was always enthusiastic about the class. I can't imagine him like so much as yelling at a pupil. He wasn't that sort of guy.
Teachers suffering from stress is common. This primary school teacher had nearly a year off suffering from clinical depression. She knows how devastating the pressures of the job can be.
At the point where I actually broke down, I just couldn't find a way out of a situation, despite all my experience, and just started to cry and cried and cried and cried for hours and just kept saying, I can't do this anymore. I was completely out of control.
The question now being asked by many is why Peter Harvey, a man in a fragile state who couldn't cope, was ever allowed back in the classroom.
Well, that's something that we put to Nottinghamshire County Council in the last few minutes, and they said that Mr. Harvey had had the full support from health professionals and the local education authority before returning to work in a phased period of time. They added, don't forget, a 14-year-old victim is at the centre of this who needs our support as well. Well, Peter Harvey himself has been at a press conference in the last few minutes. His union has been giving their reaction to the case, and Kylie Pentelow was there, and we can join her now.
Yes, Peter Harvey and his wife were at the press conference here. Neither wanted to speak to the room that was packed with reporters. Instead, a statement was read on his behalf.
The verdict of the jury is not received by me with any sense of joy or triumph. That is because I acknowledge, as I hope I have from the outset, that my actions have caused damage and pain. For that reason, I again extend my deepest and sincere apologies and regret for that. Myself and my family have only managed to cope with these traumatic proceedings as a result of the tremendous support we have received. I would like to thank those people who took the trouble to write to me, visit me in prison, pray for me, email me and support me on various websites, and of course those who have supported my wife and 2 daughters, both practically and emotionally throughout this ordeal.
Well, after that, his union said the incident arose out of an explosive combination of events. A teacher who was in a fragile state of health and a group of pupils who recognised this and decided to exploit it. Well, after that, I asked Peter Harvey how he now feels about the teaching profession, and his representative said he wants to ensure his circumstances used to make sure that teachers across the country are supported. Sarah.
Thanks, Kylie. Well, of course, this case has thrown the spotlight on stress in the teaching profession. A recent survey carried out showed that the vast majority of teachers did find it a problem. 87% say they'd suffered from stress, with 43% saying they'd suffered from depression. Well, what are the reasons behind it? 78% blamed an excessive workload, with 38% saying it was down to pupil behaviour. And all of this, of course, has physical effects, with teachers reporting problems like problems sleeping, headaches, panic attacks and mood swings. So what is it like in the classroom nowadays, and what is being done to support our teachers? I've been finding out.
Toot Hill School in Bingham. 1,400 pupils, 100 teachers. It's a school where pupils achieve and exam results are good. Even here, though, the pressure on staff can be huge. Rebecca Morgan-Jones used to be head of art, but after taking a year off from the job, she's returned to a non-teaching role.
I lost my confidence, and I just think stepping straight back into the classroom would have been quite a daunting experience. It's the pace of the day for me. That was the biggest stress for me. We'd arrive at 7:30, 8:15, you'd be here till 5:30, 6 o'clock, and it's the pace in which you have to work and the amount of work you have to produce within that day.
Yeah, well, let's see if that works.
Rebecca's colleague, science teacher Chris Erdley, agrees that workload is his biggest stress, but that's not always been the case.
When I first started teaching, I was in a different school to this. It was certainly the pressure of going in front of a class, finding that it might be in a school where the behaviour might be quite challenging, and that, making sure you're getting order and efficient learning at all time, really. Pupils, if they see a weakness, they will attack it, and then it can be very hard, as many teachers find out in the first year or two of teaching, it can be very hard to come back from that, really.
The Peter Harvey case has thrown the spotlight on pupil behaviour. Teaching professionals say too many staff have to cope with constant disruption in the classroom, from pupils with poor discipline and a lack of respect for authority.
It's extremely trying and extremely wearying, and it does lead some people into a very bad place. And I can think of some of my colleagues who have just been unable to face the classroom.
A view backed up by a national support group.
The Teacher Support Network says the Peter Harvey case is an extreme example, but that the number of stressed teachers in the classroom is rising.
The statistics for sickness absence in teaching are higher than in any other profession. So there's clearly an issue about culture, about changing it so that people can share their difficulties and that actually we support people in a more effective way.
They agree with that at Toot Hill School. They say teachers need to know they'll be listened to if they are struggling.
Because the most important resource that any school has got is its staff. And so staff welfare must be high up on the agenda for any school.
So today, Peter Harvey cleared of attempted murder. The judge, Michael Stokes QC, told the jury the fact that he hadn't asked for bail throughout the 8 months he'd spent in prison already showed the measure of the man who'd been on trial. He'll be formally sentenced on May the 21st, but he's already been told he's spent enough time in prison and he won't be going back.
OK, Sarah, thank you.